Hello! I am finally making another video because you know what? Every single college application is due in like 2 weeks, I think. So why not help some people out? I originally was never gonna read my essay because I was like, oh, that's so personal and I don't want to like share my entire life on the internet. However, if it can help someone out, I mean, really, that's all I want. I hope you enjoy. Please don't like make fun of this essay in the comments because I definitely, now looking back on it a year later, I see a lot of things I would change about it. I'll just start by reading it. Okay, so I did the prompt that was basically what is one like passion thing you do, something or other, that your application would be like incomplete without it. So it's on my computer, which is over here, so I'll be looking over here, and I'll just read it. Okay. Goodness. Dressed as a tiny pilgrim in a summer camp, my passion for history commenced at 8 years of age. I dipped candles, made my own Mayflower model out of popsicle sticks, and got my first glimpse into what I owe to those who came before me for the hardships they endured. I also discovered that I had an ancestor, John Howland, on the Mayflower. I found it hilarious that it was my relative who famously fell off the ship relieving himself. A couple years later, I felt the weight of history as I stood on the Old North Bridge in Concord, Massachusetts. I felt its significance captivate my young soul as I realized that my freedom is possible because of those brave and determined men and women who saw a different future for themselves and their country. History became more than just words on the page of a dusty book. Today, history continues to be alive and ever-changing for me. Museums are some of my favorite places, particularly the National World War II Museum and the Holocaust Museum. History is always being created, even while the past is shaping the future. The remnants of my historical obsessions clutter my bedroom. Next to my bulletin board, there is a piece from the massive Berlin Wall replica I created in 7th grade. On a shelf nearby sits a model Titanic I got at 9 years old. In the corner hangs the white banner of Joan of Arc that I sewed. On my laptop is a sticker of the flag of the French Resistance, and above my desk is a gum wrapper given to me by the Berlin airlift candy bomber himself. These explorations of the past has shaped me into who I am today. I am partly the quirky young girl so obsessed with the story of the Titanic that she watched every documentary and dressed up as a survivor to perform her own 10-minute play. Another part of me is the teenager interested in World War II, who spent time in Normandy filling the tragedy of D-Day, and who served as the National World War II ambassador, interviewing World War II veterans. My fascination with history isn't confined to just a battle or an event. I am enthralled by the history of people. History matters to me because it tells the story of passionate individuals. As I listened to the story of veterans, I began to see the past through an empathetic point of view. Learning of the sacrifices soldiers and patriots made for my freedom has filled me with the appreciation for the rights that I have. This gratitude has inspired me to become engaged in politics and government to honor what they did by fighting for the rights of others. It led me to successfully advocate for student representation to the Utah State Board of Education in the form of a student advisory council. The legacy of those who paved the way moves me to make my own history, with the goal of creating a pattern of diplomacy, helping to create a more unified world. This responsibility to follow in their footsteps compels me to be fearless. The connection I felt when I stood on the beaches of Normandy or in the East Room of the White House reminds me of where I come from and where I need to go. I learn about the present by looking to the past, whether by examining the Revolutionary War to understand modern political revolutions, or by looking at previous civil rights movements to contemplate causes such as March for Our Lives. History inspires me to pursue my own dreams as I see how individuals like Joan of Arc, my favorite, side note, refuse to comply with the status quo. Their examples motivate me to see past the box the world puts me in and to view my own possibilities as limitless. So that's the essay, my main Common App essay that I wrote that got me into Harvard. But in reality, I don't know, it's just, there's a lot of things looking back that I would change. However, there's a lot of things I think that I did right in this essay. We'll start with the things I think I did right. Number one, I told the story of something I was very passionate about. I also think that something I did right was I used specific examples from my growing up. That's always important. I also added in some things that I guess make me unique. Kind of weird too, like how I was obsessed with the Revolutionary War and Titanic when I was in elementary school, like very weird child up in here. So I talked about this passion, but then I talked about how I want to do something greater with it. And the college admissions officers always like to see how you're gonna take what you like now and change the world. So they're like, ooh, we wanna have that person on our alumni list. Is it cheesy? 1000%. Is it cringy? 2000%. But honestly, the most successful college essays are because it's a story about yourself and you're also trying to talk yourself up and say, oh, I'm the person you should admit, so they're always going to be pretty freaking cringy. But now I'm going to talk about some of the things I wish I would have done differently. One thing that unfortunately this word limit is very restrictive, or else I would have been able to add in a lot more of these thoughts. One thing I really would like to add into this essay is how history is so complicated and the narrative of history is so complicated, especially in the very, very beginning when I talked about the Pilgrims, because while yes, the Pilgrims were one of the first Europeans to come to America, even though obviously the Native Americans were already here for thousands of years, and smallpox and stuff existed, and also violence and people just not treating the Native Americans like humans existed. What I'm trying to say is I wish I would have added in something about how people in history are complicated because they're humans, and sometimes people that do important things also do very bad things. I guess just including maybe a sentence about how the narrative of history is written by the victors and often the history of those who are oppressed is ignored. If I had more words, I would love to go more into that. Another thing is, and I sound like very like go America nationalism kind of view in this, which is kind of funny, but because that's like not how I normally am. I'm very much, I tend to be pretty patriotic, but more in the sense of I believe that we are always striving to create a better world and looking back at how far we've come, but also realizing how far we still need to go in order to have complete and utter equality. I don't really know where I was getting at there. Yeah. Okay, next thing. I would have loved to add in something about the French resistance in World War II, because if you did the IB, you know about something called the extended essay, and that was my entire extended essay was about whether or not they actually made a difference at D-Day. Often in history, the truth is in the middle. That's why it's so important to look at all the different perspectives. So I would have loved to add in something kind of about that. Okay, moving on to my actual advice for writing your essay, because I know you don't have that much time left, and so you're probably really panicking right now, like, I think my essay's horrible, like I don't know what to do. Here's my advice. Get a lot of people to edit it. Maybe get some of your teachers to edit it. I did that. Alumni of the college that you're applying to, alumni association members, if you are part of one of those, it's totally okay if you're not. recruiters, professional writers, if you have access to those. Once again, it's totally okay if you don't. And if you don't have access to a lot of these people, I would say mainly stick to teachers and even people that you find through Instagram. So I asked so many people to evaluate my essay, and that's why my essay does sound pretty smooth and pretty just anybody who reads it be like, oh, that girl sounds great. It doesn't mean that you can't be like overtly, I'm opinionated in this way and like you are wrong. But you have to realize that sometimes these people reading your essay might disagree with you, and that could affect your chances. Hopefully not, because they should be able to still appreciate those who they disagree with. But I personally wanted to not risk that. So while I still show my passion, I'm not going to be offending anyone by my essay. None of these edits really changed the entirety of my essay, but we would change small wording issues, keep writing and writing and writing until you don't hate it, and that's when you can get other people to edit. Your essay should show a passion that you have or something that makes you unique. I was told over and over and over again that it shouldn't just be, oh, I did this and this and this and I'm an amazing person and accept me, please. Like, it shouldn't be like that. You should have a narrative and a story throughout it. That's why a lot of people start off and do an extended metaphor or an extended storyline throughout their entire essay. I didn't necessarily do that. I just stuck to the topic of like history. Also, it's much better to go deep on a small focus than try and cover everything you've done. Also, one thing I want to cover is the whole like sob story essay. Yes, I think it's incredible to talk about what you've gone through, to talk about hardships, and to talk about how you've grown from them and how you have become a stronger person. However, you need to show the latter half of that. You cannot just say, oh, I had such a hard life and accept me. Like, they're not gonna accept you. You have to say, I had a hard life and this is how I grew, this is how I changed things, and now accept me, right? Use your experiences to make a point. Also, please, 100%, you have to be truthful. Harvard only had one supplementary essay and you can write about pretty much anything, so I decided to write about my gap year. It wasn't the best essay. It was pretty boring, honestly. I did a little bit of a metaphor with like Chinese brush calligraphy, but it was pretty much a basic essay. Okay, I had to change my SD card, but some other examples of supplementary essays I had to write was one about what like flash course I would want to teach. So I wrote about how I love fashion, but I also love activism and politics and social movements, and I think the history of it is fascinating. So looking at where those two have collided throughout history, that would be fascinating. I want to take that course. I think it'd be so cool. There was an essay about what makes a just society. Do not remember what I wrote for that. Another one was about a book that impacted me, and so I wrote about Kafka on the Shore because it's my favorite book of all time. And those are really all of the supplementary essays that I remember. But if you do have to write supplementary essays, I really recommend within them showing the more fun aspects of your personality. I really hope that this helped you guys out, that me reading my essay, which now kind of regret doing that. Looking back on what you have worked on previously, most of the time we're gonna hate what we did and we're going to see some way that we could have made it better. Yeah, I really, really wish you luck. Expect more videos coming soon, and subscribe for some fun content that's not just college related. I'm filming some makeup videos soon, you know, all that jazz. It's gonna be a fun time. Get all your applications in on time. Bye!